Okay, we're back with a spicy episode. We're not here to be mean, but we're here to be honest. If you're out there hiring professionals, quote unquote, who charge like a professional but skip the basics like backing up files, using a secure email, or owning their own domain, this episode is for you. Caitlynn and I have seen too many situations where these pros drop the ball, and guess who has to clean it up? Let's talk about all the stuff that separates the real professionals from the ones who just have an Instagram handle.
Welcome today, guys. I feel like there's so much because as we were planning this episode, Seanna and I were talking about stories and we left out like one of the biggest ones. We just recently signed a client. And again, we're just dealing with like professionals who didn't do professional work. And I just wonder if some of these are decent signs that like maybe you shouldn't hire them in the first place.
Yes. Let's just dive right into
Let's
it.
go.
So what do we mean by a fake professional? This is not necessarily about their education or anything like that. It really has to do with how they behave, how they hold their company. And I think examples are going to speak volumes here. I was on my local Facebook page because don't we all have one of those? And someone was asking for a CPA. And this woman responded and just posted her business flyer. And I was like, oh, cool. She's in my area. Like, let me see what this other professional is doing. She's talking about how she has a PhD in business. And I go to search for her company. Can't find it. So I think that maybe all that exists for her company is this flyer that she posts on Facebook, which really makes me question how legitimate of a business she has. And I'm not trying to be mean there. I'm trying to draw attention to the fact that we have security protocols in place as CPAs to protect client data. And if you're not holding yourself as a professional, what's happening with your client's data?
Right. And in 2025, when we're recording this, like it's not expensive to get a website up, even if it says, hey, it's being built, because we had that, right? Like we had to build ours. We had a period of time where you could only find Seanna and I on our old ones. But we had like an under construction because online presence today matters to me as being a professional. Like it is an expense of having a business as a legit business owner that we establish social media handles, that we establish websites, and not because we think it's super fun all the time, but because if a client's looking, they need to know I'm not some like pop-up who's going to disappear in 2 days. Like there's,
Part of this podcast, even like this isn't something that drives a ton of leads for us, but it's part of being thought leaders in our space and being out there.
Proving that we exist. Yeah, it almost reminds me of those folks who, probably more in the tax world, but would like pop up in some rented office for like 4 months, put up some like printed sign, say, I'm here to prepare taxes and like pack it up and go. What are you going to do if you need them again? Wait till next tax season?
Right.
That's the plan. That's what it feels like to me when you don't have a website and you just have a flyer. Like, are you really going to be there to help me long term?
Yes.
That just doesn't feel good.
Yes. And as another specific example to kind of get into some of the tech side of things that we tend to see when people are and there's nothing against being a solo op. Like you and I have both started off as solo ops, but guess what? We had a website with a paid domain, which like, that's not just one of these like vanity things. There is security that comes with paying for the business side of Gmail versus what you get with a free account. Like that is just a fact.
Yes.
That's not being snobby or anything like that. And when these professionals have just a personal Gmail and they're maybe sending you financials, sending accounting file backups, any of that type of stuff, there's less security there. Like you should not feel as comfortable in that if that is what your professional is doing. And the other thing, I got to have a lovely conversation with someone who is like very adamant about QuickBooks Desktop. And this is not a conversation about that. Like we only work online because we're a virtual firm. It's a necessity, whatever. That's a whole different topic. But this woman was the only person that had a copy of the accounting file for a multi-million-dollar company. And is like, when I originally contacted her because they're parting ways and we're like in the process of talking with this potential client, she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going out of town. I'll get back with you to send you the file. And it's like, This is the only woman that owns the accounting file for this company, which is just terrifying.
Yeah.
And then I'm talking to her post vacation and she's like, oh yeah, my computer crashed yesterday. Good thing I work on all my client files from a flash drive. I'm like, okay, so now this flash drive is the only thing that holds these accounting files for these companies. And it just blew my mind. I'm terrified for
my
those
blood
people.
pressure is rising hearing this. You as the client need to own your books. Please hear that loud and clear. QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, you own them. It is your company. If you want to sell it,
It's your company.
We get added as accountants. We may set up your QuickBook file. If an accountant is setting it up and not assigning you the ownership of it, this is a flag of all the reddest proportions. Because if the relationship goes bad, if something happens, if the accountant passes away, whatever, you have to have access to those files for your taxes, for your sales taxes, for your compliance purposes, to run your business, to pay your payroll. We are trustworthy, wonderful people at this firm. I would love to say that applies to everyone, but it does not, because had something happened to this woman on vacation, what was the plan?
Exactly. Go to her house, teach her husband how to get into her computer. Where's that flash drive? I don't know.
Right. A reason we don't love desktop, but desktop's okay-ish if you own it and you have multiple backups and your accountant has sent a file and then you send it back and forth. This is why we don't like desktop. It's so much back and forth, but
there are ways to make it work that are not this. But so that's just one example of some of the tech things when you work with these professionals, quote unquote.
Right. And again, $1 million, millions of dollars of business and revenue coming through to track, and
yes,
be lost.
And let's also talk about this from the tax side of things, because there is a new hotness in the tax world, in the accounting world, where, and I say it like that, it's been going on for years, but it does continue to get pushed. The more that we see AI come into our professional space, there's a lot of push to how do you be the advisor to your clients? And there is nothing wrong with that concept of advising clients. What I don't like, and what we're seeing more and more frequently, is that people are calling things advising that is actually just the work that they should be doing in the first place.
It is so frustrating. Between Reddit and Facebook, the stories I see, and yes, that's where I spend my time off, is in Reddit and Facebook. We're not going to judge that right now, because I want to know. Part of it's learning, right? I want to know what other professionals are doing. I have picked up invaluable tax pieces from reading how other professionals do it and then checking the laws. But I was reading this morning, and I come across this story, and this woman is saying, I was preparing a tax return. I had priced the preparation of the return, similar to what we do, I assume. And she had all of the factors that there was a short-term rental, long-term rental, real estate professional client. That all gets certain treatment because the person's a real estate professional. We can bypass some of the rental real estate hour rules, because arguably they're doing it full-time as a job. So she's going through this. She says the QuickBooks, the files are super clean. All is great. I was like, cool, awesome. What's the issue here? Well, upon preparing the return, discovered that the rentals had generated a $30,000 loss, which was going to basically wipe the tax liability and create a huge refund. Okay, cool. Awesome. Do it. Comes back and says, well, what should I charge for this new thing that I found while preparing the return? And how do I broach that topic? Because I already priced the preparation. And as I told Seanna, my flabbers were gasted, as they would say on TikTok, because I don't understand. This was your job, was to prepare this return accurately. And the accurate answer is to click the box, in my software at least, that says real estate professional, to push those losses through. If you don't click that box, knowing that she's a real estate professional, you suspend those losses most likely. And why? That would be the inaccurate preparation of this return. I go to see comments saying that she needs to have a discussion with the client. Say, I found something between $20,000 to $30,000 maybe, but in order to verify this information, she'd already verified, it's going to be $7,500.
What?
I understand we allow contingencies in some of the IRS rules, often upon like audits and stuff like that. We're not supposed to have contingencies on preparation. Why? Because it encourages false preparation and inaccurate preparation. And in this case, it wouldn't be inaccurate, but it sure feels like you're gouging a client for no reason. It feels unethical. It feels immoral. It feels so gross. And she posted in 2 groups. I read this multiple times. I was like, someone where I don't like at some point this is going to click, right? Like this is not what she should be doing. And that just didn't happen.
And that is similar to me a few years ago when in Cultivated Strategy, I didn't offer any sort of tax prep. I would partner with tax preparers. And so I was like networking and interviewing tax preparers that I would want to send clients to. And in that process, I interviewed someone and I was like, well, talk to me about how you like look at the client's returns and like what sort of assessments you're doing in tax planning and just wanting to understand the process, because that would tell me a lot about how this individual thinks and treats their clients. And that's what I was really after, was like understanding the process and how my clients were going to be treated. And she was like, well, when I meet with a client, I'll like present 3 options to them. And it's like, if you pay us this much money, then you get this much of a tax discount. And if you pay us Y amount of money, then you'll get that amount of discount. It was like 3 packages that were tied to the discount, not to the service, not like, okay, well, if you want this tax package, then you're going to get safe harbor estimates. If you want this package, you're going to get actual estimates versus your company this year. Like there are reasons to have packages in tax planning and tax prep, 100%. But that was not it. It was tied to the return the client was going to get, which is like, that is not legitimate. that is just,
how do you guarantee it? Because that's the other piece. There's so much that has to be done to get that benefit. And even if you say, like, let's say it's a new tax strategy as a professional, you've never seen it before, but the client qualifies. You're vaguely aware this thing exists, but you're going to have to do research. That's when you eat hours. It's when you eat hours at public accounting. It's when you can charge a fee, but guess what? If it's new and I've never seen it before and it's going to cost me 10 hours of research and talking to another tax professional at their consulting hours, guess what I'm paying? All of that. I might charge you a few hours that if I had known this, it would have taken that time. This is part of learning and studying. It's a big reason why we start with other people a lot of the time, but I could not have, like, Deloitte would have hit me so fast across the head if I was like, by the way, I think we should charge the clients for my ineptitude and I'm going to sit here for 20 hours and burn time. Come on. And we, by no means, and again, I kind of hark it back to like those big companies. Deloitte would never. They would never give you a tax plan that says, well, if I save you so much money, you owe me this much. No, they just charge their exorbitant hourly fees. That's fine. That's what they get to do.
As they say it in the Big Four world, we're never hungry during busy season because we're always eating hours.
I remember my professor being like, don't eat hours. I was like, oh no, you're going to eat hours. Deloitte was fairly good. They didn't make us eat them, but we wrote off a lot that a client never saw.
I believe that.
Rightfully so.
I do believe that. Yeah.
Because it's just, because all of this, right? When we don't have the websites and the tech and we're charging packages that are percentage based and not really on the up and up.
Service based.
It's hurting credibility. It's hurting the industry so much so that, like I said, and like I was in Reddit last night, I'm in a tax group, which is not professionals. It's just taxpayers. And one was like, why does everyone recommend an S Corp? Oh, I can tell you, because I know people who would charge $10,000 just to make your election and find your reasonable comp.
Yep.
It makes them money.
Yep.
And I was like, well, I have currently am building a template for our firm to analyze the tax savings with the additional costs that come with an S Corp.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to tell a client to make this. And by the way, you owe me more money
for an S Corp
and now
return.
You don't have savings.
Yeah.
Right. For an S Corp return, for the bookkeeping, for the payroll software, like there are these additional fees. And I think it's in our due diligence as professionals to present those to a client.
Absolutely.
To not just say, oh, well, you save 15.3%, make the election.
The number
And
of
then
people
you
that have come to us that have an S Corp election, and we're like, you never should have had it. And they're like, well, I don't want to pay for this return. It's like, I'm sorry, we can't, like, because of timing, you've got at least one more year of an S Corp return. We'll see.
Because there's zero returns. They're not making money. Well, that like, what is it? I think TurboTax charges like $1,850, somewhere around there, just for the federal on an S Corp return. So even if it's all zeros, you're not paying $2,000 because you have an S Corp that you probably paid $5,000 to get.
So talk to a tax professional, a true professional, before you make elections, before you set up an entity type, all of those fun things. And we will wrap up our rage episode here. We do love our profession, and we have great, talented colleagues that we talk to all the time and that are great sounding boards for us. But we do get very tired, as in all industries, when we have clients come to us that have had bad experiences. And like that happens across the board. Like I've had bad real estate professional experiences and great ones. Like it's not industry specific, but I do think that it's important to talk about the things that, like, if your professional, quote unquote, is doing these things, they might not be a professional. And maybe you should seek a second opinion, because if those things aren't there, what else isn't there? Is your tax return correct?
Yep.
Like there's a lot that can all start to pile up, and it never hurts to get a second opinion, even if all they do, like I've told people before, yeah, your bookkeeper's doing a great job. Yeah, your tax professional is doing a great job. I'm not going to like make stuff up. It does.
Good to say that.
I'm not going to make stuff up just to like try to get a client. Like if they're doing a good job and you're happy, great. Congratulations.
Stay. Yeah. And now you can feel even more confident, because that's part of it, right? That's why our podcast exists and our blogs and our newsletters, is we want you as the client to be educated enough to either ask your professional these questions, to go seek that second opinion, to understand the discussion, because there shouldn't be gatekeeping. It is at the end of the day, your business, your tax returns, your livelihood. And you need to know that you can trust where it is.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us through this rant. Hopefully it was helpful and not just blowing off steam for us. And we look forward to seeing you next week on Unfiltered Profit.